My boss humiliated me in every meeting. Then one night, she showed up at my door. I still remember the way everyone looked at me after my boss finished speaking. No one laughed. That somehow made it worse. The conference room fell into a heavy silence while I stood beside the projector, my presentation frozen on the screen. My manager, Victoria Hayes, slowly closed her notebook, leaned back in her chair, and sighed as if she had been forced to watch the world's longest disappointment. "Mr. Carter," she said, folding her arms, "if this is your idea of preparation, perhaps we should discuss whether you're in the right career." Every pair of eyes shifted toward me. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I nodded. "I'm sorry, I'll improve it. You've been saying that for 6 months." That was all. She gathered her papers and walked out, leaving me standing there with my cheeks burning while my coworkers quietly packed their laptops. No one mocked me. No one defended me either. That became my life. Every Monday meeting, she found something wrong. Every client presentation, she questioned my judgment. Every report I submitted came back covered in red comments. At first, I thought she simply had high standards. Then I started believing she hated me. Eventually, I began wondering if she enjoyed humiliating me. I worked at a small consulting firm in downtown Chicago. The pay wasn't amazing, but after my father's medical bills had drained my savings, I couldn't afford to leave, so I stayed. I kept my head down. I worked late. I skipped vacations. I accepted every criticism without arguing. Still, nothing changed. One afternoon, my coworker Ben sat beside me in the break room. "You know," he whispered, "everyone notices." "Notices what?" "The way she treats you." I shrugged. "Maybe I deserve it." He frowned. "No." "Then why me?" "I honestly don't know." Neither did I. The strange thing was that Victoria never insulted anyone else. She challenged people, corrected mistakes, demanded excellence, but only with me did she become cold enough to freeze the room. I started waking up anxious. Sunday evenings became unbearable. Even hearing her footsteps outside my office made my stomach tighten. One evening I stayed until nearly 9, finishing revisions she'd requested. As I shut down my computer, I saw her office lights still on. Through the glass wall she sat alone, staring at an old photograph. For the first time, she didn't look intimidating. She looked exhausted. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. Her shoulders slumped. She rubbed them slowly before placing the picture back inside her drawer. When she noticed me watching, her expression instantly hardened. "Finished?" "Yes." "Good. Be here at 8 tomorrow." Of course, that brief glimpse of vulnerability disappeared as quickly as it had come. The next morning, she criticized another report. Then another. Nothing had changed. A month later, our company competed for the biggest contract in years. Winning it would secure everyone's jobs. Losing it meant layoffs. Victoria personally selected the project team. When she announced my name, the room went silent. Even I looked surprised. After the meeting, Ben caught up with me. I thought she'd pick someone else. So did I. "You should be happy." I'll believe that when she stops treating me like I'm useless. For 3 straight weeks we barely slept. The project consumed our lives. Victoria demanded perfection. She rejected draft after draft. Sometimes she'd cross out entire sections without explanation. I grew frustrated. One night, after everyone else had gone home, I finally lost my patience. I knocked on her office door. "You wanted to see me?" She nodded without looking up. I placed the newest report on her desk. "Before you mark this one apart." She looked at me. "I'd like to know something." "What?" "What exactly do you want from me?" Silence. "I've rewritten this report 5 times. 6. "Fine. 6. You still missed 2 issues. I've fixed every issue you've ever pointed out." "Not every one." I laughed bitterly. "Then tell me what I'm doing wrong." She stood. For a moment, I thought she might actually answer. Instead, she said quietly, Go home. I'm serious. So am I. I can't keep doing this. I know. Then help me understand. Her jaw tightened. You wouldn't. I stared at her. What does that mean? It means, she stopped herself. Go home, Ethan. I walked out angrier than ever. 3 days later we presented our proposal. Everything depended on it. Halfway through the meeting the client's CEO asked a technical question. No one answered. Not even Victoria. I knew the solution. But I hesitated. After months of being shut down, I doubted myself. Victoria looked directly at me. Well, it wasn't an insult. It wasn't sarcasm. It sounded encouraging. I took a deep breath and explained the strategy. The room grew quiet. The CEO smiled. Excellent answer. Victoria simply nodded. Afterward, she said only one sentence. Good work. It was the first compliment she'd ever given me. I almost didn't believe I'd heard it. The following week, we won the contract. The office celebrated. People laughed. Champagne appeared. Victoria congratulated everyone. When she reached me, she shook my hand. You earned this. Before I could respond, she walked away. I figured maybe things would finally improve. They didn't. The next Monday she criticized my presentation again. Not as harshly, but enough to remind me nothing had really changed. By then, I'd stopped trying to understand her. I simply focused on surviving. Then everything changed on a rainy Thursday night. I was eating leftover pasta while watching an old baseball game when someone knocked on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Victoria stood there. Her hair was soaked from the rain. She wore jeans instead of her usual business suit. For a second, neither of us spoke. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said quietly. I blinked. No. Every instinct told me this wasn't normal. Still, I stepped aside. She entered slowly, looking around my tiny apartment. It's smaller than I imagined. I spend most of my time at work. I know. She noticed framed photographs on the shelf. One showed me beside my father, in front of an old fishing boat. Her expression softened. Is that him? Yes. Comma. How is he? I frowned. How do you know about my father? She looked away. I asked human resources. Why? She asked. I wanted to know why you refused overtime bonuses. I stared. You knew? Yes. I knew your medical bills mattered more. I couldn't process what I was hearing. She remained standing instead of sitting. I owe you an explanation. For humiliating me? Yes. She took a long breath, and I said, I'm listening. She took a long breath. 10 years ago, I managed another junior analyst. I said nothing. I said, his name was Daniel. Her voice shook. I knew your medical bills mattered more. What happened? 2-point answers. I praised everything he did. She swallowed hard. I overlooked mistakes because I didn't want to discourage him. The room became very quiet. One of those mistakes cost a client millions. She closed her eyes. The company survived. He didn't? She nodded slowly. He blamed himself. She whispered the next words. He took his own life. My anger disappeared. Not because she was suddenly innocent. Because the pain on her face couldn't be faked. I attended his funeral, she continued. His mother asked me one question. She looked directly at me. Why didn't someone make him better before it was too late? Tears filled her eyes. I've never forgotten that. I didn't know what to say. So when I became department director, P, you pushed everyone harder. No. She shook her head. Why me? Because you reminded me of him. The words landed like a punch. You were talented. She smiled sadly. She smiled sadly. You were also afraid to challenge yourself. I thought you hated me. I never hated you. Then why embarrass me in front of everyone? Her eyes filled with regret. Because I confused pressure with leadership. Silence stretched between us. I thought I was protecting your future. She laughed bitterly. I was destroying your confidence instead. Neither of us spoke for nearly a minute. Rain tapped gently against the windows. And finally I asked, "Why tell me now?" She reached into her bag and removed an envelope. I resigned this afternoon. What? My resignation becomes effective tomorrow. I stared at the letter. The board accepted it. Because of me? No. She smiled sadly. Because I finally admitted I'd become the kind of manager people feared instead of respected. I sat down. Everything I'd believed for months suddenly felt incomplete. She wasn't a villain. She wasn't a hero. She was simply broken. I came here because I couldn't leave without apologizing. She looked me in the eye. I'm sorry, Ethan. The apology was simple. No excuses. No conditions. Just honesty. I realized I'd imagined this moment countless times. I dreamed of telling her how much she'd hurt me. How many nights I'd questioned my own worth. Yet now, the anger felt strangely distant. You did hurt me, I admitted. I know. I almost quit. I know. I stopped believing in myself. A tear rolled down her cheek. I know. For the first time since we'd met, she looked smaller than I did. Not physically. Emotionally. I don't know if I can forgive everything I said. I'm not asking you to. She stood. I only wanted you to know the truth. She walked toward the door. Before leaving she paused. For what it's worth, she smiled. You're better than I ever was at your age. Then she left. I stood there listening to the rain long after the door closed. The next morning, everyone learned Victoria had resigned. Rumors spread instantly. Some celebrated, some were shocked. No one knew the real reason. I never told them. A month later, our company hired a new department director. She believed in coaching instead of fear. The atmosphere changed completely. People smiled more. Meetings became conversations instead of interrogations. As for me, something inside had changed too. I started speaking up, sharing ideas, mentoring new employees. Whenever I corrected someone, I remembered Victoria's mistake. Challenge people. Don't crush them. Nearly a year passed before I received a handwritten letter. No return address. Inside was a single note. I started teaching leadership classes for nonprofit organizations. Every session begins with the story of the manager who confused fear with excellence. Thank you for helping me become someone better. There was no signature. None was needed. I smiled. Some wounds never disappear completely. Mine didn't. Certain conference rooms still made my palms sweat. Loud criticism still made my heartbeat quicken. But those scars reminded me of something important. The people who hurt us often carry wounds we cannot see. That doesn't excuse their actions. It doesn't erase the damage. But understanding someone's pain can stop us from passing that pain to someone else. Years later, when I became a manager myself, a nervous young employee apologized for making a mistake during his first presentation. Everyone waited to see how I'd react. I remembered another conference room, another manager, another version of myself. I smiled. It's okay, I told him. Let's fix it together. The relief on his face reminded me that leadership isn't about proving who's strongest. It's about helping someone else discover that they are stronger than they believed. And every time someone thanked me for believing in them, I silently thanked the woman who once stood at my apartment door on a rainy night. Not for the pain she caused, but for having the courage to face it, apologize for it, and ensure it ended with us, instead of being passed on to the next generation.